All right, welcome to week 2 of our virtual learning. Hopefully you were able to get 4.1 started and do the SR for that. That was for last week. So for each week, I'm just gonna have you do the SR for graded work. However, I am posting our notes as well as practice. And now I found a way where I can record myself explaining the practice and post that. So you have a few different resources before you take the SR. So this unit is 4.2. It's over triangles that are congruent by side, 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 and side, angle, side. Okay? So what I would recommend doing is taking the notes from the video on PV Online. On Google Classroom, I do have a blank version of the notes. So you'll see right here, I have a blank version that I posted that you can either rewrite by hand when you watch the video, or you're welcome to print it out if you have access to a printer. However, if you also just want to watch the video and use my copy of the notes, that's fine, okay? I definitely recommend watching this video, specifically the part that goes over the proof, the example that she does at the very end of the video. And it's a short video, I think it's only about 6 minutes. The proof that she does at the end is very similar to about 2 questions you'll have on the SR. So I would definitely recommend watching the video so that you have a little more understanding of the proof, because there are 2 questions on the SR that are similar. And I apologize, from the diagram that's in the video, I wasn't able to get that in my notes on Google Docs, but you can copy it down from the video or just pull up the video and look at it from there. Okay, so now to do the practice. So the practice is very, very similar to your SR. I would recommend doing this on the blank copy first. So you'd pull up the blank copy on Google Classroom. You'd scroll to the practice part here, and then write your answers on a piece of paper, or if you, like I said, if you have access to a printer, you can definitely print it out. But I would write down your answers first on the practice, and then check your work with my key here, and watch this video explaining. I'm going to go over all of the answers. So if you haven't already started the practice on your own and tried it, I would pause this video right now and I would go try it on your own. If you've already tried it on your own, you can keep watching. I'm going to go ahead and go over all of the answers and kind of explain why the answer is what it is. This is super, super helpful because this is a lot like the SR. I actually went and did just in order. So number 1 here is going to be very similar to number 1 on your SR. Number 2 on the practice is going to be very, very similar to number 2 on your SR. I tried to make it kind of as helpful as possible for you because you're used to having me and Mrs. Paul in the class, and now you're kind of on your own. So I think this should be pretty helpful for when you take the SR, which is for points. So number 1 says, name the angle included by the sides AB and BC. So if we're looking at AB and BC, the angle that's included with both of those is going to be angle B. Okay, so not too bad. You just look at whatever the 2 parts are. What's the letter that they have in common? What's the angle that they have in common? That's going to be B. The next one, for number 2, you're actually going to have several of these that you have to choose, either side, 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 angle, side, or not enough information provided. And we want to know what we're going to use to prove that the following triangles are congruent. So remember that congruent just means the same. So these little markers here, the little checks, that means that they're congruent. So if we have 1 check here, we know that's going to be congruent to this right here because that also has 1 check. This has 2 checks here, and so does this segment right here. So we know those 2 are congruent. And then this line, they actually share the same, so we know that's also going to be congruent. So because we have 3 congruent sides, it's going to be side, side, side. So if you look and you see, oh, I see that there is 3 of the same markings on each triangle, it's a good indicator that's going to be side, side, side. On this one, we have 1 check here. We have 1 check here, so we know those 2 are congruent. We have 2 checks here, and 2 checks here. So we know that those sides are congruent. And then we have a 1 little angle marker here and 1 angle marker here. So we know those angles are congruent. And those angles are in between the 2 congruent sides. So it goes side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So we know they are going to be congruent because of side, angle, side, right? This is similar, it's just these 2 triangles aren't connected. So if we look, we have 1 marker here, we have 1 marker here, so we know those 2 sides are congruent. We have 2 markers here, 2 markers here, so we know those sides are congruent. And then just like in the other one, we have 1 mark here for the angle and 1 mark here for the angle. So we definitely have 2 sides that are congruent and 1 angle that is congruent. And the important part is that the angle is in between the 2 congruent sides. So it goes side, angle, side, side, angle, side. So that one's also going to be side, angle, side. This one here is a little bit easier. It's kind of like the first example, except the triangles are not connected. So we have 1 mark here, 1 mark here, 2 there, 2 there, and then 3 here and 3 here. So it's going to be side, side, side. We know there are 3 congruent sides. Now these are the ones that you want to look at. So for this one, we have 2 congruent sides here. We have 1 mark here, 1 mark here, 2 marks here, 2 marks here. So we definitely have 2 sides that are congruent. We have 1 angle that's congruent, but notice that that angle is not in between the 2 congruent sides. So for example, if it was J and F, so if it was J here and F, it would go side, angle, side, but this one goes side, side, angle, which is not the same. You can also flip that around, and if it said angle, side, side, you can think about what that would spell, and you would know that we're not going to use that for math, okay? Because you wouldn't want to have that written out. So for this one, it would actually be not enough information. And for this one, the same thing. We have 1 angle that is congruent here. We know that these sides are congruent here. We know that they share this side, so that's also congruent. But again, this angle is not in between those 2 sides. Oops, sorry, this side and this side. If it was Y, we would know, yes, it is going to be side, angle, side. But this one again is going to be angle, side, side, which would spell out something that we wouldn't use for math. So again, it would be not enough information. Okay, moving on to number 3. It says, what additional information do you need to prove that triangle EFG is congruent to triangle PQR? So remember that this sign right here means congruent. Okay, obviously the triangle means we're talking about the triangles. So we want to know that this is the exact same as PQR, so that maybe PQR is just enlarged a little bit. So we know that we have FE is congruent to QP because each of those just have the 1 little mark. We know that FG with 2 marks is congruent to QR because it has 2 marks. So we need to know that PR is congruent to EG. We just need to know that the last lines are going to have 3 little checks. So the first one says EG and QR. That's not what we need. The second one says EF and PR. Nope, we don't need that. And the last one says EG, so this one here, EG and PR, which is what we need, so it's going to be C. Okay, so take your time with those. They're really not too bad, but you do have to make sure that you take your time. And remember that sometimes they can be flipped around. So for example, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing EG, okay, but that could also be written as GE, okay? which I think is what I used for the next one. So we have one very similar to this. What additional information do we need to prove that ABC is congruent to KLM? So for this one, we actually have one side and one angle. So we have a side here, AC, and a side here, LM. We have an angle here, M, and is congruent to C. So we know we're not going to use side, side, side. We're going to use side, angle, side because we have one angle in there. So you remember that the side has to be the angle has to be in between the two sides. So the side that we're going to be looking for is going to be next to the angle that's marked. So we're going to be looking for CB, because that's in between this angle and this side, and KM, which is in between angle M and LM. Okay, so that's the one we're going to be using. We don't need to know KL and AB, because again, that would not be side, angle, side. That would be side, side, angle, or angle, side, side, which we're not gonna, it doesn't prove anything. So the first one says CB and MK, and that is actually what we need. Like I said, for that one, I was looking at it as KM, but they just flipped it around and they put MK. It's the same thing, you can flip it around. So that's actually gonna be your answer. The first one, A, but let's just double check and look and make sure that the other ones are incorrect. So the other one says AB and MK. So like I said, we want MK, but AB is not gonna be the one that comes right after the angle. That one would be angle, side, side, which is not what we want. And then the last option was BC. So it's this one here, which we do need, and KL. So it was the right for the first triangle, but for the second one, that's not the angle we're looking for. I'm sorry, that's not the side we're looking for. We want the side that's gonna be right after the angle, which would be the MK or the KM. Okay, so that one is A. So again, just take your time when you do this. Take your time, look back at my example. For 5 and 6 on the SR, like I said, use the proof from the PV Online video. It's pretty similar for both of them. So a couple of hints that I like to say. I know a lot of people don't really like proofs. They get a little confused with them. So just know that there's only 2 of them on the SR, so it's not a lot. And the reflexive property is what is shown in the video on PV Online, so the example that she has in there. So the reflexive property is AB equals AB, okay? So it's gonna be whatever, where's my cursor? Whatever you have is gonna be equal to what you started with, okay? So 3 is equal to 3. BC is equal to BC. It's going to be the same on both sides. Think about reflexive. So if you look in your mirror, you see your reflection. It's the exact same thing. Symmetric is on your SR, but we haven't had it in a while, so I wanted to remind you. So hint, hint, maybe the one you're going to choose on the SR is symmetric. So symmetric is going to be the same thing but flipped around. So it's going to be AB is equal to BA. So we just take it and we flip it around. That's symmetric, okay? Also for 5, make sure you're looking and seeing, are we gonna be using side, 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 or side, angle, side? Some good hints with that are, do you see an angle side? I'm sorry, an angle sign. If I see an angle sign, I know that I'm probably gonna use side, angle, side, okay? If I only see the check marks, okay, then I'm gonna know that it's gonna be side, side, side. Okay, so use your hints that you have. When you write a proof, so that's what you're gonna be doing in number 6, what you are trying to prove is going to be the last statement in your column. So let me show you an example from the notes, which are up here. So notice that we wanted to prove in this example from the PV Online video, we wanted to prove that triangle EFD is congruent to triangle GDF. So that has to always be your last statement, okay? So under the statement column, that's gonna be your last statement, okay? And then the reason that we know that is because of the side, angle, side, oops, which I just realized that I had a typo. That should be an A. To fix that. Okay, so just know that when you're doing that, you at least can get that one right because you know that what you're trying to prove, what it says prove, you're going to put that at the very last statement. Okay, so then you can kind of do process of elimination.